how can a normal guy gain more value in his life? So for dating in general, but also for life too.
What does value mean? So uh, Voltaire, who's I don't know if anyone knows who Voltaire was, but he was one of my favorite authors when I was 19 years old. He said, if you're going to debate me or have a discussion with me, you have to define your terms. What do you mean by value? I don't understand. It's such a vague term. People talk about sexual marketplace value. I don't know. I'm not trying to be difficult here. I really don't understand what you mean or what other people mean when they say value. I could say the value of a gold coin, it's right now equivalent to, I don't know the price, $800 USD per ounce, but it's so ill-defined, it's hard for me at least to have an intelligent discussion around it. So I would ping it back to you, Ice, and say, what do you mean by value?
Yeah, you're right. So that word value is thrown around, and I actually completely agree with you on the sexual marketplace value. I never really bought into that term. It's like, okay, is there like a stock market for vagina and penis? I'm not sure that's how it really works. Um, but value in terms of, yeah, I did phrase it in a bit of a vague way, but let's imagine, so you yourself said you deal with a lot of, let's say, busy professionals, for lack of a better term, and there are some guys who are millionaires, just like Brandon was saying, and they still don't know how to get women. So what kind of, not everyone's a millionaire. A lot of guys think or attribute money to being able to date more women, which is not necessarily true. What kind of value can a man build upon himself, which will better his chances for dating?
I think there's a couple of things. First of all, and is beyond confidence, beyond all that, is unconditional self-acceptance, that a guy who will accept himself and at the same time devote himself to where he wants to improve. Someone who accepts who they are and also is willing to set a direction and build towards their dream, to be able to take those two things, which seem to be a contradiction, but to put them together, that's number one. But in terms of dealing with women, I think the greatest utility value you can provide to a woman is to know how to give her the emotional experiences that she craves. One of my most basic teachings is women look at us through the feelings they have for us. This is one of the reasons why guys who are not super attractive or super successful can get women. They know how to create, and you don't have to do it in a way that's damaging, but women look at us through the feelings they have for us. So if you know how to evoke those different feelings, fascination, connection, as well as comfort and safety, arousal, if you know how to do that, and again, I'm going to keep coming back to language because that's my specialty. It's not, that's all I can speak about. If you can provide those emotional things and do it in a way where she can't figure out why she feels those things, because then she'll run it over in her mind. Why am I so attracted to Ice? I've never met anyone like him. And she'll talk to her girlfriends about it, which really hammers it even deeper. If you know how to do that, then I think that, and then finally having the skill to create a space where a woman can regulate her emotions better. People say women are crazy. Some women are batshit crazy, but all of them, most of them are emotionally unregulated. So if you can help provide something that helps her regulate, those are all things to me that will cause her to choose you above all the other choices she's got. This is just what works for me. Again, I really genuinely am here to learn from the other teachers and masters. So what I'm teaching is incomplete. It's just my model.
I think that's ever evolving.
Can I
Ross?
add to this? Oh, sorry, bro. Sorry, I'd like to add to this because I'm literally sitting.
Yeah, go
on
for it,
my
go for it,
plane.
go for it.
We're going to take off soon. All right.
Okay,
So,
get it.
firstly, I'd just like to say that Mr. Ross Jeffries was integral in me losing my virginity when I did. So, I just want to put that out there. Like, when we talk about people being the real deal, well, Ross Jeffries is the real deal of the real deal. That's number one. Number two, what I'd say to add to something you said, because if you're talking about like adding value, I'm taking that to mean like outside of directly communicating with people. How can you have value that makes you seem to be a better man in society? That's how I'm taking the question on it. I would say you have to do scary things. So like 99.9% of people just live inside their comfort zone, whatever that is. So I live here, I live in a small town called Birmingham. I work as a builder. I build during the day. I go to the pub with my friends, and then afterwards I go home and I jerk off the porn with them. And they just do that. And it's like, if you actually start to do the things that the little ideas that you get when you think, oh, what if I was to start salsa dance? You know, and you go, you know what, forget it. Like maybe I'll go there and I'll be embarrassed and I'm refused, but I'm gonna still keep going anyway. And I'm just gonna do salsa dance. And then you go week after week after week, and then you become a really good dancer. And then, like a year down the line, you're at a salsa club and you're dancing and you're the guy. And I was like, oh, wow, look at him. That's one thing. Or maybe you start a business and it doesn't work, but you start a few and you realize that you didn't die and you're still here. So as a result of doing it, you have this extra degree of confidence within yourself. You start speaking to people, not even necessarily in a sense, but you're sitting next to people in the airport at the bus stop, and you start having conversations with those people, and then that becomes easier for you as well. You go, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym. And you do. And you're like, oh, I can actually transform my body. Huh. I didn't even realize I could do that. Because it's like this. I started working out when I was 14, and I was like a fat kid before then. And outside of like building muscles or something, what was really got me was this realization that I could actually create something for myself. Because I looked at my body, it was one way. Then a couple months later, it looked completely, well, not completely, but it was different. And then a switch went off in my brain. It's like, hold on, I can do this. What else can I? And then I actually did teach myself to dance a few years ago and things like this. So it's talking about value because what do people value? What is value? People value things that are like rare or difficult. You know, that's the reason why we value money, for instance, because it's hard to get a lot of it. So if you start to do the things that actually scare you or intimidate you, that you want to do, but you're kind of worried about doing it for failure, you start doing that. Well, most people aren't doing those things. And you're going to start building up value as a result, you know? Like, yeah, there you go. That's my answer to the question.
Yeah, I'll go now. So essentially, I think Ross made a really good point asking what is value. And I think that's what I try to do with a lot of my students when I begin with. When they say, you know, how do I become more value? That's my first, what do you think value is? And essentially to me, it's going to be attraction. So we're looking at value from the women perspective. It's essentially, what do you find attractive? That is what's going to be valuable to you. That's what you're looking for. Now, it's going to be different for most women, but there's some general principles that I think are going to be the same. So what I do with my students is I sit them down and say, why would a woman want to fuck you? Like, really, you go to a club, you find this girl attractive. Like, why should she fuck you? Like, if you're in her shoes, would you want to fuck you? Like that's where I start. So I get them to write down why would this girl fuck you? Essentially, that's your value where you're at. And then I ask them, like, what can you improve on? What can we actually get better here? So obviously there's the general things like having more resources. So figuring out how to have like a nice job or, you know, get out of your fucking mom's basement. Things like looks that we spoke about before. So improving that. But then there's also the behavioral aspect, which is the whole game that we teach essentially. So I like what Kieran said about essentially putting yourself in difficult situations and becoming like more calm under tension. So being more dominant, learning to be more assertive, learning to be more social. So starting off with, I have so many students that want to get good with women, yet they're not good with guys yet. Like they don't even have any friends. So it's like, if that's where you're starting at, don't go to the club, go to a fucking sports game or something, right? Like go out and actually get a hobby like dancing, build a network of men that you can actually learn to be social around. Then from there, learn to be social with women. You can develop like understanding from having coaches like us. You can learn some sexual values, so have some sexual authority. So basically anything that you think a woman's going to find attractive, there's some things you should work on, but there's nothing. And I'm sure we'll all agree with this. There's nothing that's better than actually getting out there in front of women over time and actually learning what is working with them and what isn't. And obviously like having a coach to help out with that, like us, is going to help. But that's essentially where I'd start with building value. It's going to depend where you're at. So write that list and then figure out some things that you can work on.
That's
Yeah.
so brilliant what he just said. If I could speak into what Marcus said, he said, go out and experiment and find out what your skills will let you do. I'm paraphrasing what you said. So many guys are stuck because their internal dialogue is what shapes their outer world. Rather than go out and experiment and try out new things with women, they're thinking about it. If they only have the right combination of words in their head, they're using their internal dialogue to be the architect of their relations with women and with the world in general. And that's such a huge trap. There's so many guys who are left brain, even borderline Asperger, that they let that internal ratchet up, yeah, be the architect of their life, not just with women, but their life in general. So Marcus is so absolutely right in what he just said.
Yeah,
I
I
also think
there's this
Go
premise
ahead,
that I
Mark.
always think, which is if you want to know what you think about yourself, just put yourself in front of a woman, because your self-dialogue, as you mentioned, will go crazy, right? Like you will hear the things that you think about yourself very clearly in that moment, more so than if you look into a mirror. So yeah, I agree with that. I think like putting yourself in front of a woman is sometimes the best therapy you can actually go through over time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think value is or beauty is like value, right? It's just like the eyes of the beholder too. So I think the best way, and I think this is kind of the underlying fundamental of everything. We're all experts in communicating with women. I think overall, though, when I talk to my guys, is the best way that you can improve your life in general is by learning how to communicate, just fundamentally, right? With men and your job, with women, just learning how to communicate, because once you learn how to communicate, you will understand what that other person finds valuable. And then at that point, you can make that bridge to connect with that person, which a lot of the time with women, it's none of these things that you're worried about. So just learning how to communicate is basically going to take you to that next level. And like Marcus was saying, is if you don't have any friends, if you can barely communicate with other men, that's the fundamental. That's where you start. No matter where you are in your journey, you can always improve your communication skills, whether it's with women, with other men, in your job, whatever it is. So that's what I would say. If guys are looking to improve, is assess their communication skills and say, okay, how can I get to that next level?
There's actually, if I could, that's again brilliant. I'm blown away by the quality of the people on this panel. So thank you for that. Actually, speaking to that point of learning to have conversations, I'm not even going to plug myself here, because there's a book called Captivate, actually written by my niece, Vanessa Van Edwards. If you want to grab a book that'll teach you those skills to converse.
Hold on, she's your niece.
Yes, Vanessa is my niece. You've heard of
Wow.
Vanessa.
Wow.
That woman is incredible. She's your niece.
That's
That
my
is so
niece.
amazing.
That's my sister's daughter. Yes, she's my niece. I recommend Vanessa's book. I don't get any money from it. It's not driving any traffic or business to me. The book is called.
I recommend it too, because that woman is just, yeah, sorry to cut you off, but I just need to say, like, she's just like this bundle of positive and free flowing, confident energy. She just oozes this charm.
She also has something called People School. Yeah, I got Vanessa started in entrepreneurship, but she kicked my ass from here to Mercury.
You know what? Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But yeah, sorry, I will go away. I really needed to add that, because I like and respect her work quite a lot.
Beautiful. There we go. All right, who's
Yeah.
next?
But I wanted to say, like, I already agree. Like, I love this panel already. Like, a great choice of guys' eyes, as Ross said, and I agree with all of you guys previously what you said, and I think as well, like, value, like, is very vague. But what I would suggest is pursuing meaningful goals in life, you know. And by that I don't mean to be like, I don't know, #1 World of Warcraft player in a bit between your walls, or hanging around with your loser friends. Most guys don't even have friends. That's the problem. And they focus on the goal of how to get high value girls. You know, if you're not high value yourself, the girl should be the cherry on your cake and not the cake itself. That's the problem with many guys. They don't have meaningful goals. They don't prioritize self-care. They are not high value themselves. So what do you expect to get a like a good looking girl staying with you? Like, okay, here and there you can get one night stands, but not meaningful relationships for long term, you know. If you don't if you carry yourself like shit, and yeah, Don't be what I would suggest as well is don't be the king amongst your loser friends, rather be the loser amongst kings, because those people will upgrade you, you know.
You're smart, and you're really good with metaphors. I like you.
No, I mean, because you feel better, you know, as a loser, you feel better. Look, oh, I'm the king within my friend groups, you know, between all the amongst all these nerds and etc. etc. I'm the king. Everybody looks up to me. But as soon, and this Marcus said as well, they cannot hold court in front of other men, in front of other high value guys. You know, they lack. I never met a guy who's really good with women who is not good with men. Like when it comes to talking to men and holding court in front of men, you know. And yeah, I think I can add to this. I mean, we already had very good opinions and very good insights. So
yeah, I can kind of attest to that. It's like the analogy of being the big fish of a small town, which is kind of where I was at. And then you move to a big fucking city and you're fucking tiny. So having a group of friends and being the dominant one, and like if you peak in high school and then what? Your life fucking sucks after that, if that's the case. You need to Michael Sartain was saying I don't think he can make it to this panel this time, but he was going to come here. He said something recently, be the dumbest guy in the room. Like, obviously don't be stupid, but you want to surround yourself with people who are more intelligent. And you know, that could also apply to money, to people who are better at business than you. That will elevate you. And whereas if you are surrounding yourself with losers and you're the king of the fucking losers, like you were saying, so that's not as appealing as being on your own journey with different trajectory where you're actually climbing up in the ranks. That's far more appealing. So yeah, I like that too.